Hey everyone, it's Kara here from Boho Berry, and I'm back with another 1 month in my bullet journal. I recorded this entire video, and apparently none of the audio picked up. So this is my first attempt at a voiceover, so bear with me. A lot of you mentioned that I put the wrong month at the top of my weekly spread. I wrote July instead of August. Here we are a whole week into the month of August, and I wrote July. And I owe that really to me just being exhausted. It was a long day Saturday at the DC Pen Show. And honestly, I think I was just so tired after spending the day at the DC Pen Show on Saturday and then the drive home Sunday morning. My brain was just pretty much fried. So I am actually going to attempt to correct this today. And you guys know I make mistakes all the time. And what I like to do is actually kind of make fun of myself instead of fixing it or trying to cover it up. I oftentimes like to just kind of make it playful and not really cover up that I made a mistake, but actually celebrate those mistakes and turn the page instead. So today I'm actually going to play around with some of my new inks. I have the Distressed Oxide inks that I picked up at Michael's the other day, and a lot of you said that you wanted to see me playing around with those in my journal. So I'm actually going to take you over to my workbox and show you what I'm going to do with this little area here on the page, hopefully a little quote or something to celebrate my mistake. So here we go. Okay, so here we are at my workbox, and I'm gonna apologize in advance because I've never filmed over here before, and I have the camera actually propped on the desktop itself, so it's gonna be a little shaky at times, so I apologize for that. But I tested out my inks in this old Leuchtturm journal that I have. I actually use this journal for practicing different layouts and things like that. And so I decided to test out my Distress Oxide inks just to see how it would do on the Leuchtturm paper, to see if it would bleed through to the other side, how it would handle the water and everything else. So this was my little practice test from before I started filming this video. And you can actually see that it didn't bleed through at all on the other side, so I was really happy to see that. And then I also played around with some masking tape in my journal just to see if my journal could hold up to me putting some masking tape down to kind of mask out a work area. So I'm actually going to pull the tape here just to verify that it's not going to mess up my journal, and it looks like it's going to be fine. So we're going to actually get started. And I'm actually going to bring my bullet journal up onto the table, and we're going to see what we can create. So I have my Distress Oxide inks. They're made by Ranger, and I have them in this little caddy, so they slide right into my workbox. And I think I'm going to use this Peacock Feathers teal color in the front, and it's kind of like a gorgeous little teal, and I think I'm going to use a pink as well. Probably this Worn Lipstick color. It's kind of a corally pink, or maybe even this picked raspberry, which is kind of a brighter pink that will probably match a little bit better with my journal. But I originally went with the Worn Lipstick, so that's what we're gonna go with. Oh, voiceover magic. Don't you love it? I also have this little dauber, that's what I'm gonna call it, a dauber thing. But I have a little dauber pad for each of my Distress inks, and I just put a little Velcro dot on the back side so I can keep each color separate and not mix the colors on my little dauber pads. Okay, so you can see the Worn Lipstick, I haven't used that one yet. It's fully white, so this is all a complete experiment, you guys. You are learning right along with me. I also have some paper towels and a little spray bottle, little water spritzer. And then I have my heat tool. It's a Wagner heat tool, and I'll make sure I link all of this in the video description down below for you. All right, so we are going to start out with the Worn Lipstick color. So I'm going to actually put that brand new dauber onto my little dabby thing. I'm calling it a dabby thing. and we're going to get started. And this is where I realized that I still wanted to tape off a section. So here I'm just dabbing the color onto the dabber itself. And man, voiceovers are hard, y'all. I don't know how all of you YouTubers out there that do voiceovers all the time, I am totally impressed with you guys. Anyway, this is where I realized that I actually wanted to tape off a specific area to work in. So I set my dauber off to the side, and then I'm grabbing some masking tape so that I can kind of tape out the area on my page that I want to work in. And I'm purposely leaving a little bit kind of hanging off of the edge so that I can easily pull that tape up later when I'm done. And there comes my second piece. And I'm just kind of deciding where I want my little design to go on the page. All right, so now we're actually going to go in with ink, which is very, very exciting. So I'm going to start again with that pink, just reload it, make sure I've got plenty of ink on the dauber. And I'm just going to start kind of off of the masking tape a little bit and onto the page, and do it in kind of a circular motion. And from what I've read, these inks actually blend really, really well. So even if you get some harsh lines, you can kind of go back over those and smooth them out. So I've never tried the original Distress inks, but from what I've read, those were really hard to kind of smooth out those lines if you made a mistake. And these Oxide inks are actually a lot more forgiving. So again, sorry about the shaky camera. I have it attached to the desktop there, so every time I daub, it's shaking like crazy. All right, so I'm putting the pink away. That was the worn lipstick. And I'm gonna grab, I'm gonna put my little dauber thing back on its place. And then I'm gonna grab the peacock feathers and its respective dauber off the back. And then we're gonna go in with some teal. And my hope here was that kind of blending the teal and the pink would create sort of a lavendery purple. So we're gonna see here if that worked out for me. Sometimes with different inks, colors can get a little muddied. What I love about these is you can kind of layer them on top of each other, and they don't necessarily, I mean, they do blend a little bit, but you can really layer the colors one on top of the other, and you can even layer light over dark, which is awesome. So I'm just kind of going in and playing around, kind of making whatever pattern I feel like there. And then I think I decided to go back in with a little bit more of the worn lipstick over top next. Because I was actually feeling like it was getting a little dark with the teal, so I wanted to lighten it back up by going back over the top with a little more pink. All right, and then I think I was pretty happy with it at this point. And that is when I decided to go in with the water. Now these Distress Oxide inks are known for their reaction with water. So I'm actually going to take my water spritzer bottle, and this bottle actually sprays a really even mist. But instead of an even mist, I actually kind of want big water droplets on the page. So I'm actually going to spritz it into my hand and then just kind of flick the water onto the page. So you can totally do this with a bowl of water that you have laying around. You really don't even need a spritzer bottle. And you can see right away how the inks react with the water and starts to kind of oxidize. And at this point, there's a few things that you can do. You could actually take a paper towel and kind of blot those water spots. It'll lift some of the color off the page, but instead here what I'm doing is using my heat tool to dry everything as quickly as possible so that I can get to the lettering portion. But this way the color doesn't lift off of the page. It just kind of blends together, if that makes sense. So I'm getting it to a certain point and I see that in the water some of the colors are starting to get a little bit muddy, a little bit brown. So I'm setting it down and I'm actually going to go in with my paper towel and blot up the remainder of the water. And then at this point, I decided it was still a little bit too dark for me. So I decided to try some of that hot pink, that brighter picked raspberry color. So I'm getting my dauber all inked up here and I'm just gonna add kind of some brighter highlights to the page. And the first time you ink up your little dauber, it takes a while to get it really saturated. All right, here we go. We got some extra brightness to the page, and I'm just going over really, really lightly to get some more of that hot pink. And I think it actually looks a lot better with the hot pink Tombow marker that I used on the page. So now that that's blended in, I'm actually going to go back in with a little bit more water. And I decided to actually spritz the whole thing directly onto the page. So I'm laying over some paper towels so that hopefully no water gets on my Tombow markers, which as we know are water soluble as well. So I don't want those to get wet. So I'm going to go through again and just spritz the whole page. And then I'm going to come back in with my heat tool and start drying that out. And you can see the different effect that you get with the big water droplets versus spritzing straight onto the page. So I dry it a little bit, and then I think I'm going to go back in with my paper towel and just make sure that it's completely dry. Or no, I'm actually going to add some bigger some bigger water droplets off in the corner. I think it needed a little bit more there. All right, and then heat tool again. All right, I'm getting the hang of this voiceover thing. Look at me go. Okay. I hope y'all are laughing right along with me on this, you guys. I just didn't want to refilm the whole video. All right, here we go. So all that is drying up really, really nice. And I think I'm going to come back in with the paper towel and just make sure that everything is completely dry. And then it's going to be time to peel the tape. So this is basically painter's tape. So I'm just pulling it back, and hopefully the ink will not have bled through, which it looks like it did great. There are some areas around the corner that bled through a little bit, but I'm totally fine with that. It's all a big experiment, y'all. All right, so I'm actually really happy with the way that that turned out. We're actually going to go back to my regular desk now, and I'll show you how I do some lettering and all that fun stuff. All right, so we're back at my desk, and I had kind of a freak out moment wondering if this ink was going to transfer over onto the other side of the page when I close my notebook. I have a feeling that it's not, but it kind of has this chalky texture to it, which is what kind of made me feel like maybe it would transfer over. So if you guys have experience with that, let me know. I'm curious if it's more permanent or if it's going to transfer over to the other page. But anyway, we're actually going to move in and start lettering a quote here. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to write. I knew that I wanted to kind of make fun of myself a little bit. So I knew that I wanted to write something funny, so I just decided to write just my normal handwriting. It's just a little more spread out, and done in a more kind of playful lettering and bouncy style, not really trying to stick to the lines. And sometimes when I do this, I might go back and do like some faux calligraphy, depending on how much weight I feel like the letters need. And I am speeding up the video a little bit in this part just so that it doesn't drag on forever, but I'm just going back in, and for everywhere that I did a downstroke, so if I drew down with my pen, I'm just kind of filling in an extra line. And sometimes I'll go in and actually fill those in, but I actually really like how it looks open in this case. And then I actually felt like it needed an extra little something. I didn't quite center my lettering, so I decided to draw a little arrow. You guys know how much I love arrows. And that is it. We are actually gonna turn the page here and get started on setting up for today. All right, so speeding it up again here, I'm just drawing out my daily time bar and then checking the weather and adding that in. It's gonna be kind of a crummy day here, a little rainy. And then I'm gonna add my header. So again, I'm using my bouncy lettering here that I talked about earlier, and then adding in the date at the bottom with a little arrow, which has been kind of my signature thing lately. All right, so now we are gonna flip back to my weekly spread and make sure that I get my events and appointments here on the page. So I know that today I have a kickoff call for a course that I'm participating in. That's going to be at 6 p.m. So I'm going to write that in. And then I also know that I have a few deadlines coming up this week. So I have my Tombow takeover deadline is on the 9th. I have my DC party, PlannerCon party information deadline is on the 10th, and then I'm actually going to be leaving for Omaha on Friday. So I want to make sure that I focus on those deadlines as early in the week as possible so that I can get them done and not have to worry about them once I'm gone. All right, and then I also know that I have my TN inserts going into the shop on Friday morning, so I want to make sure that I finalize everything I have to do with those, which is at this point taking pictures of my prototypes and things like that. So I need to get all those pictures done, I need to get all the listing information ready to go in the shop and things like that. All right, so now that I have all my tasks, that's going to be a pretty full day for me. So I'm just going to leave it as is for today and come in and do my highlighting. So I have my blue for sleep. And again, this is just my ideal day and how I want my day to go, not necessarily how it did go or how it's going to go, because things always change and always come up. All right, after that, I have yellow for my morning routine. And then I have one appointment today at 6 p.m., which is that call. It should take about an hour, so I'm going to highlight about an hour there after the 6 o'clock mark. And then the rest of my day is going to be pretty much work. So I'm leaving a little space right after noon for lunch. And yeah, it's going to be a long work day today. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We were all set up. Oh, I do have to do my monthly spreads, of course. So for gratitude, I am actually filling in that I am grateful for rain today. Because even though rain is kind of dreary and kind of icky sometimes, it's definitely needed. It hasn't rained here in quite some time. So I'm happy that it's raining. And also, rain kind of gives me more reason to stay inside and not go play outside and run errands and do all those things that can kind of be time sucks sometimes. So on a day like today where I need to be super productive, rain can actually be really helpful for me. All right, and after that, we are going to my monthly tracker, which we're filling this in for Sunday, so I'm still using pink. And I know that I did not wake up by 6 yesterday. That's why it's not filled in. I did my miracle morning. I did my hydrate. Did not work out. It was Sunday. Sundays are my rest days. No budget review, no blog post. Definitely did a YouTube video and definitely posted to Instagram. Not a me day. I definitely worked a little bit yesterday and I did not go to bed by 11. I actually went to bed at 11:15. Last night. So that's not close enough for me to want to mark that. All right, and then moving on, teal for the new week for Monday, even though right here I realized that since I woke up at 6:45 this morning, I actually don't get to fill anything in today. So that will be tomorrow. So we'll actually be moving straight along to my mood tracker, which for last night I put relaxed. I had a very relaxed evening with Mark. It was great. I loved it. And then for this morning, I actually did orange, and orange is for stressed. I'm just a little stressed with everything that I have to get done this week. I'm sure that once I get going this morning, it will all kind of fall into place, but I do like to record my moods accurately when I can. So we've got a little orange there, no biggie. All right, and we'll move on lastly to my sleep log. A lot of you have been asking what color gray I'm using to highlight my sleep log. And I use my Tombow so much that the numbers kind of rub off a lot of times, but I'm using N75 here. And I went to bed at 11:15 last night and woke up at 6:45 this morning. So I actually got some pretty good sleep last night, even though it wasn't within my desired time frame. I actually got a good chunk of sleep, which was really good. And then moving on to the right-hand side, I'll fill in my notes for the night. So my minimum heart rate was 68, which is pretty low for me. And then my max was 87, and my average was 75. And then according to my sleep app, which I have as always linked in the description box below if you're curious, my sleep quality overall was 81%. And then, yeah, we are pretty much done for today. We have everything set up. We have our monthly spread, or I'm sorry, our weekly spread good to go. Everything is on schedule, fixed my error, and I'm all set up for Monday. So I'm really, really excited to dive into my day. I hope that you are too, and I will look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Bye.